hit this. Okay. Boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have an incredible guest with us today, one who's going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than our brother Ian Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam, sir.
Yes, sir. And first of all, Ramadan Mubarak, sir.
Ramadan Kareem.
Yes, sir. This is an extreme honor that you would take time out of your busy schedule to come have a conversation with us.
Let me see. It's my honor, brother. I've been watching the show for a few years now. Love it.
All praises due to Allah. Yes, sir. Well, the first question we have for you today is, when did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
I was finishing my last year of high school at Andrew Jackson High School here in New York. And there was a brother Clive, who was in the classroom. And whenever we had history class in particular, he would argue with the professor or with the teacher who was Jewish, Mr. Friedman. I always remember that. And one day he said to him, why is it that we have chapters on the Holocaust, but we have one chapter on slavery, which happened here? And when he was done, you know, I questioned him. I'm like, wow, not only are you courageous, but you have a lot of knowledge. So he said, I learned from Minister Farrakhan. So that's the first time I heard the name. So I said, okay. I said, who is he? Is he like Al Sharpton? So he said, Al Sharpton, because my first experience when I came here in 1990 was Yusuf Hawkins being murdered in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. Every day on the news, I would say Al Sharpton, and I wanted to go march with him. And my mother, oh, you're not marching with him, but he's fighting for a good cause. So it was at Yusuf Hawkins, he gave me a tape and he said, you should watch it. Actually, it was a cassette. So, you know, I'm telling my age now. So he said you could listen to it. So I said, okay, I will. I put it to the side because I mean, it's a pastor or a preacher preaching. I'm not going to stop to listen to them. And the first time I laid my eyes on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was at Yusuf Hawkins' funeral when they broadcasted it. And he was saying, never again. And I was like, who is that? And then I saw all of these security around him and he was speaking so fearlessly. So I said, who is that? So I was driving in the car one day with my family again, and there was a paper, Newsday, that said Black anti-Semites. And it listed Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, and it says Louis Farrakhan. So I said who is this Louis Farrakhan? So my mother said, he's a very powerful Black leader that white folks are afraid of. I said, wow. Then I put two and two together. It was the same person. I went back home, listened to that cassette, which was Power at Last and Forever, 1985, Madison Square Garden. And the rest is history. I fell in love and I started to go to the mosque number 7 under Minister Conrad at the time. And I just loved it. And I started the process about maybe 1993, 94. And I processed like government cheese until 1995, after the Million Man March. That's when I wrote my letter and, you know, and I joined the Nation of Islam.
All praise to Allah. Beautiful. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And thank everyone who continues to watch. And my sister Miriam says, Assalamu alaikum, family. Walaikum salam, ma'am. Okay, let's go back to Yusuf Hawkins' funeral. I've interviewed people who were there. My father was on security for the minister at the time. It was such a big deal. And there's a documentary through the eyes of Al Sharpton on Netflix dealing with the Yusuf Hawkins thing, which helped me get a better understanding of the historical significance of that, the murder. Why, for you being there, why was that so powerful for you to actually be there? What was so important about Yusuf Hawkins and what took place?
Oh, man, I couldn't believe it. I wasn't at the funeral. I saw it on television. But it changed my life because, you know, I saw the civil rights movement on television and I couldn't believe that this was happening in 1990. I couldn't believe it. And then the whites were spitting on Black people and calling them niggers. And it was so, their behavior was so terrible. The Italians in particular, their outward racism was so prevalent and so obvious to me. And, I think it was the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad who says it takes our brothers and sisters here, it said years, but a longer time to catch what maybe us from the Caribbean catch quickly. So I was angry right away. It took me no time. I became quite hateful of white folks just at their behavior during that time. It was all over television. It was bigger than O.J. Simpson. It was bigger than Will Smith and Chris Rock today. It was huge, and it was very telling, very telling. The Italians. I've spoken to other brothers, including Minister Hafeez, who grew up in Brooklyn, and he said he faced this. So if you've never, other white folks like Jews will hide how they feel about Black people. But Italians will tell you straight up, because they were called, Sicilians were called, Blacks and niggers of the white community. So they have an extra hatred and anger, and they can be pretty much very awful, very terrible in their behavior. And they were calling us niggers and spitting, and then they ultimately stabbed Al Sharpton. One Italian man stabbed him in the chest on one of those protest marches. So I was angry, and Farrakhan spoke to that anger. Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All praises to Allah. Okay. Now, how did your family and friends feel about you accepting the teachings?
My father, he never quite understood, but he supported whatever I stood for. My father, which most people would know, is actually half Chinese. So he's from, his family's from China that went to settle in Jamaica, and he found this beautiful Black woman. And so I'm from that type. So he wouldn't understand that culture, or what I was angry about. And my mother was really a secret. My mother always reminds me of Diana Ross, because she was so classy, very strong woman, and very, my mother was wearing Rolex before I knew what it was. But she was a secret radical, because she loved Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi, and she loved Minister Farrakhan. So she loved it. She had no problem. As a matter of fact, at the time, our Sunday mass meetings was at 2 p.m. So the agreement that I had with her a couple of times, I would go with her to church in the morning, and she would come to mass number 7 in the evening, And when she passed in 2004 from cancer, it was Minister Hafeez who was one of the ministers who spoke at her funeral, or as we call it, janazah. And it was beautiful, because the FY was there, and it was a great display for the rest of my family, who thought I joined some cult or some, weird organization.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Questions, I believe a lot of those questions went out the door when they saw the representation at my mother's funeral.
Beautiful. All praises due to Allah. Yes, sir. Well, speaking, we have definitely going to get to some questions about Minister Hafeez and you're working with him. My sister Naima says, Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam, Naima. And I can't wait to put this on YouTube. Once we put it on YouTube, please let us know what city, where you're from in the comments, so that we can show you love as well. Working with the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what has been your some of your interactions with him?
Wow. Where do I start? So the first thing, I think this is probably true of many of the believers, is just seeing him. When I joined the nation in 1995, I started to drive for Minister Conrad at the time. And, that was when I would see the E-team come through. That's when, I met Brother Tada, and of course, Supreme Captain at the time, Captain Sharif, and Brother Jay, and everybody. It was Brother Rashad. It was a wonderful time. So, but my thing was just to see him, because I've never seen anyone that looked like him before. He just looks like someone from another planet. It has nothing to do with his skin color or his hair. It's just him. There's this glow that and the way he moves was amazing. So the first thing was I was just in awe. Like I'd seen Michael Jackson or a superstar.
Yes, sir.
And then I would always give him the greens when I had a chance. I would look at him, I would see him. And then I think the first interaction that I had with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was in, it probably was in Jamaica where we exchanged words. I was in Jamaica and Minister Hafeez flew into, it was 2006. And the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, Minister Hafeez arranged that I would meet him, and I sat in the hotel suite with him, and I started to tell him of the politics that was going on in Jamaica, and one particular politician that I didn't like or trusted. And the minister looked at me and he says, well, brother, I want to remember exactly. Minister Hafeez had it written down for me. He said, well, brother, we're not interested in that. You know what I mean? What we're interested in is the unity of our people. I said, yes, sir. And then I went to say, but he said, no, brother, I told you already. I was shook. I never know the side of him. He said, brother, I already told you, not interested in that. Your job is to get the people of Jamaica to stay in Jamaica and to help make Jamaica what they like in America. I said, oh, yes, sir, yes, sir. He said, no, my handsome brother, how are you? I was shook. And then he went on to speak, about, Sister Portia, who was the prime minister at the time, who I was very close to, who just became the prime minister. He came for her inauguration. And then we just, I was blessed to sit there and hear him, he talk and get a vibe from him. And then the second time was when he came back to Jamaica in 2012, before we had the Day of Atonement in 2013. He came in 2012, and I had the honor of driving him. And Mr. Farrakhan and Brother Joshua, and I think Supreme Captain Mustafa was there also, yes. And they all walked into the SUV that I was driving, and Minister walked in singing one song, and I was like, oh boy. And he's singing, and he says, wait, is that Brother Ian? I said, yes, sir. He's like, Salaam alaikum, wa alaikum salam, sir. And as we were driving, one of the brothers who was the point car was driving a little reckless. And the Honorable Minister Farrakhan from the back seat said, brother, who is that brother driving that car in the front? Now he saw this. This is 3 cars ahead. And I think one of the brothers said to him, that was in the front. The other brother was in the front, said to him, it was such as, he said, well, brother, tell him to get off the caravan. He's not to drive anymore while I'm here. And they made a phone call, and that first car came off, and we kept going. It was very impressive. Yes, yes, sir.
Beautiful.
So those are my experiences with him.
Yes, sir. Now, you said you were very close with the Prime Minister of Jamaica. How was that?
That was pretty adventurous. The Prime Minister, Sister Portia SimpsonMiller, was the great fair of the elites of Jamaica, because she came up as a radical, as Michael Manley's right-hand person, the one that when the CIA was playing in Jamaica, she was the one that would pull her pistol out to defend Michael Manley, who was really like a savior for Jamaica at the time. And so when she rose up to become prime minister, that was pretty scary, because Michael Manley's mission was to make Jamaica more equal and to introduce wealth tax and to basically to make the country more just. So being with her and around her was amazing, because she was strong, she was fearless. And then I also saw how she was influenced later on to be more prime ministerial and to compromise. And, it was the beginning of the end for her politically, when she's began to compromise. At that time, I was back in the States. So yeah, so it was an amazing experience. But after Minister Farrakhan, nobody really impresses you. It's just so difficult.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, great. Now, my next question for you is the Minister Conrad. What was he like? Minister Conrad,
who is now Reverend Tillard.
Yes, sir.
Was I don't want to upset anybody, but he was a prototype of Minister Farrakhan for us who couldn't touch the minister. He studied the minister so well. And he wanted to be him so badly, I believe, that he came across that way. And so a lot of the minister's movements, a lot of his style, certainly his way of dressing, you know, Minister Conrad was extremely good looking and charismatic, and he had an in with the hip hop community. So I met P. Diddy and Jay-Z and LL Cool J at the time. He was an amazing, he was a star in his own right. He was a star, you know, he walked into anywhere, you took notice, you know what I'm saying? And I remember learning about ballet shoes before Salvatore Ferragamo from him and his suits. And I learned how to dress really from him. And he was certainly a great representation during that time, especially how you look and how you speak. There was one particular speech that he did at the Slave Theater when Khalid Abdul Muhammad, Dr. Khalid was sat down, and they were jumping over this Malcolm X thing. And I think it was no, I don't think Khalid was shot as yet. I think he was just sat down. And this was an anti-Nation of Islam group. And they were questioning why was Khalid a silenced, or, you know, and Conrad went up fearlessly and ripped that place apart, brother. I mean, Captain Dennis was on alert to fight, because that was what Conrad came in there to do with the word. And so he was very impressive at defending and representing. And he showed us in a very good light, you know, during that time. You know, we were, as I said, we were stars. Yes, sir.
Beautiful. All praises due to Allah. Excellent. And Sister Audra says, Assalamu alaikum Ramadan Mubarak. And she said, very interesting. Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. My Minister Hafeez. You got, yes, sir. You got to be around him for so long. What can you give us an interesting story about him?
Yes, sir. Minister Hafeez was, and I'll say it honestly, Minister Hafeez was much more substance than Minister Conrad. Minister Hafeez now was heavy with the knowledge. And there was something that happened when Minister Hafeez was in Brooklyn and Minister Conrad was in the city, and we would have the unity meetings. Whenever Minister Hafeez would come in, it was Minister Kevin at the time, the place would go up in smoke. It was just amazing. It was so exciting. And he was so loving and caring. He really cared about the believers. You know, Minister Conrad had a thing where he would walk into what we call the vestibule, and he would just put his hand out, and he would have to put his coat on his back. Hafeez was the opposite of that. Hafeez would be looking for the Quran to preach and to teach. So Minister Hafeez was a lot, that's where my spirituality took flight, and that's where my faith, you know, really was built, because Hafeez, when he took over, the whole spirit of the mosque changed. You know, we realized that the brothers in Brooklyn was a lot more spiritual than those of us in the city, who was, again, we were into style more than substance. So Minister Hafeez was just a wonderful, loving, strong, knowledgeable minister. And I think for him, my word for him would be consistent. He was consistent. Consistently have you there till 3 a.m. in the morning before you can go home. You know? He was consistent. An interesting story with Brother Minister Hafeez would be just his sense of humor. Minister Hafeez knew every rap song there was. Minister Hafeez found pleasure, I would say similar to Michael Jackson. He found pleasure in young people. So Minister Hafeez wanted a junior FOI or brothers who thought youthful and young. He didn't like he wasn't into the hoorah and he was just substance. He loved the brothers, he loved the sisters, he loved the nation. He would stay at the mosque from can't see morning till can't see night. That man never wanted to go home except to go home to his family and come back to the mosque. So he loved his work. He really did, So I think an interesting story would just be, the fact that, he was a big brother, but he was a martial art, a damn near master. He could fight, he could rap, he could, and I think most people didn't know he had a very soft heart. So when he told you a story of him growing up, as an orphan and stuff, then you could see he was sensitive at the same time. He taught us well, and we miss him so much. He's amazing. He is amazing.
All praises so loud. Beautiful. I didn't know about the orphan thing either. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sister Christine Crowder says, ASA family, Ramadan Mubarak, alaikum salam. And my sister Naima says, beautiful story. Speaking of faith and being studied, what advice would you give to the next generation about staying 10 toes down in faith, based on all your time in the nation?
I look at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who is our example. And I look at what he's gone through, and he's spoken about his health issues. And the way the minister speaks, I'd like to think I'm so private that he just tells it all, talks about the bags. And though, with the poison that makes that, he spoke about Savior's Day falling down several times, not being able to stand for long and walk, the trial that comes from Allah. For those of us who say we believe, just prepare yourself for what will come and just know that you'll be successful. Like the Honorable Louis Farrakhan going to the wheel, and he will be healed. So it's about having faith, but the trials that will come from loss of property, loss of life, diminution of fruit, it really does happen. See, the heaven that we have is in our faith, is in our belief in Allah, is in the good times. But just know that the rough times are going to come, and when they come, be ready and thank Allah. When the Honorable Minister Farrakhan lost 6 units of blood and he was dying, he was saying, thank you, Allah. And his family talk about all he was just thanking Allah, and I know, so many of us have gone through so many trials. I've been through big trials, going through some now. And I'm in such good spirits because I just know that I'm the winner. As long as I stick with God and stick with truth, I will win. And so that's what I would teach. No one taught me or told me what I would face being a believer. And we haven't faced the enemy yet. I'm talking about the enemy of self.
Yes,
and
sir.
your own. I've been on social media arguing with my people over this whole Will Smith thing, because the judgment in which we speak. When I heard Minister Farrakhan spoke through Minister National Representative, Sister Eva said, thank God I'm thinking like him. I'm like, who are you people to be judging? So I say that, what I would say to the younger believers is, you've already won your destiny. You won. Whether you live or die, you've won. And you're going to have a good life, but be strong when trials come, because it's coming for those of us who believe. Sir.
Excellent. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we have a few more questions for you, but we have a quick 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast this month. In the month of Ramadan, we want to thank everyone who continues to sponsor, and the anonymous donations that we get every single month. We want to thank you all for that. If you'd like to be a sponsor or donor, please cash app the People's Podcast. My brother Rashad, Street Premier Media Production. He has a 4K camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out to him if you need any of those. My sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me children's book and coloring book, both of which are available on Amazon. Please get both of her books. My sister Naima, Stay On Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country and right here in the studios of Atlanta, Georgia. Rod Communications, if you're working on a book and you need copy editing, project management, content development, or media relations, please reach out to Rod Communications. Fashion Gods, Urban Wear for men and boys, 314-329-6009. He'll keep you dressed very fresh. Thank you very much. Student Minister Robert L. Muhammad out of Austin, Texas, conflict mediation, squashing the beef throughout the Southwest region. He does a phenomenal job. His wife, Sister Fudia Muhammad, children of the Most High, giving birth to a God in the science of child rearing. Also, Sister Sherry Muhammad, AsiaticMinds.com. They teach STEM virtually to young kings and queens all across the country. AsiaticMinds.com. Brother Kenneth, bow tie maker extraordinaire. He'll ship bow ties to you anywhere in the country. Dr. Henry Carter, King Henry Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad, COVID-19 disinfecting cleaning services out of Chicago. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, AbdulSharif.com. And last but not least, my two books, Cleopatra, which is a children's book, and No Father, No Excuse, both of which are available on Amazon. Thank you all very much. Right back to our brother Ian. Okay, Brother Ian. Yes, sir. Brother Ian, will you ever go into the ministry?
I've been running from it. You know, it's been a dream of mine for quite a while. But business has taken me. You know, it's so funny because I've heard the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that business robs you of the spirit. And being a corporate executive, a businessman, and even going through trials in that field has made me not as ambitious to be a minister as I once was personally, but I find myself whenever I talk and whenever people say, "Oh my God, you saw," and whenever I give advice. So I think it's coming. I think it's coming, and it's coming the right way, which is after all of these trials and these growth spurts that I'm having. I think it's a natural thing because I love my people and I have a lot to say, and I'm inclined that way. Yes, sir.
Great, yes, sir. Because you've been teaching. My next question for you is fear. Being in New York, going back and forth to Jamaica or from the Caribbean,
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever faced fear? And if so, how do you overcome the fear?
Wow, you know, fear has come to me in the middle of the night. I'd be sleeping, and it happened to me this one time, and I woke up at around 3 o'clock, and I was in Jamaica, and this fear came over me, and I just knew it was time to leave, and it was a good time. So I don't. To me, it's a spiritual thing again, Brother Joseph, Brother Joshua, I'm sorry, where I just feel a spirit. It's not a fear. I don't fear men. You know, thank God for the FOI train. I really don't. I get frightened like everybody else, but I don't get fearful. If I get frightened, I'll get myself together. You know, so fear for me has been a spiritual thing, like Allah Himself saying to me, Brother Ian, this way. You know, so all praises due to Allah. I've had experience. I've been frightened, but not fearful. I see those two words as two complete different words. When you're just so fearful of things, I haven't quite had that since I've I've joined the nation and become aware and awakened. Yes, sir.
All praises to Allah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, great. My next question is what was the climate like of the Million Man March, and how did it personally impact you?
The Million Man March happened when I was in processing, and I was doing very well in business at the time, car sales. Again, that's what Conrad and the nation did for me. I took to the do for self part of it, and we were doing well. And me and a crew of my friends that were in college, and we went. So I didn't go with the Muslims. I went with my friends to the Million Man March. And Brother Joshua, it was amazing. Again, that spirit of flying, that spirit of that high spirituality of just floating, you know, and the power, the love, and then seeing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the E-team and, you know, represent and, you know, walk down those stairs, and the Supreme Captain Mustafa speaking before the leader. It was amazing. It was heaven. It was the greatest feeling of love and power that I've ever felt. And I've never felt that since. It was an amazing day, and I was honored to be there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Speaking of trials in life, what has been your greatest trial in life, and how have you overcome that trial?
My greatest trial in life would be, I've always been very careful of my reputation. Because I idolized Louis Farrakhan so well, I've always been concerned about my reputation. So in business, when someone lies on you or when your reputation takes a hit, that was a major trial for me. Because since I was I never smoked and drank because my father did enough of that. He was a happy drug lord. Mm-hmm. So I never smoked or drank. I didn't steal, and I wasn't holy, but I carried as an FOI and as someone influenced by the minister and even by my parents before that, I carried myself a certain way. So when I got involved in politics and you start to gain enemies and people start talking bad about you, that was a major trial. And then I had to look back at scriptures. I look at the fact they said the minister and Malcolm X and this, that. I said, oh, wow, he's been carrying a lot of stuff with him. And yet he's at peace, And so my biggest trial was lies and people talking bad about me. But I have overcome that for the most part. And no, that was my biggest trial. Yeah, because even my mother wasn't a trial. I understood, and I asked God when she was battling cancer. I asked Allah, whatever your will is. So my faith really took precedence, and my family depended on me during that time. So that wasn't so much. I miss her, and of course, but my trial would be getting a bad name and bad reputation and fighting that. That I don't like. Yeah, that gets me angry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, great. And well, what about your greatest joy? What has been your greatest joy in life?
My greatest joy would have to be my family. I'm a family person. I'm friends, the believers. I love. I love the brotherhood. I love the sisterhood. I love my wife. I love my friends. But those really my friends are like my family. I don't really have friends. Friends are the people on the outside. So I love the nation. My greatest joy would definitely be me being aware, awakened, and me being a Muslim. I remember one day in Mosque number 7, one of the captains, I think it was a temporary captain, Captain Anthony at times said, do you know how lucky you are, or we are, to be a handful of people who actually believe? And I said, wow, I never looked at it that way. I heard it and I was like, that makes sense. I'm going there. But a lot of our people don't do that. And I think what the Nation of Islam gives us more than anything else is peace, and that's what I have. And so that was my greatest joy, being able to be at peace and being able to fight when attacked and not miss a beat. I don't lose sleep after I say what I have to say or do what I have to do, as long as I'm in right. Yes.
Beautiful. Yes, sir. Well, speaking of your family, what advice would you give to future fathers?
Okay. I had the greatest father I could have had. I had a father that 2 times he would bring me to and from school. 2 days out of the week, he would bring me KFC and Murder King. While all my friends was there because I didn't like the food that they served on those days. I was high school in Jamaica. I had a father that took me fishing, and he did all the things that, Leave It to Beaver father would do. And I think a lot of it had to do with his Asian culture. And so with him and seeing the friends of my friend's father and seeing their ego and the issues of coming up from slavery, I could tell the difference. And so it gives me an insight into things that, like as Barack Obama would have an insight into white folks and, and how society runs. When you're interracial, you have an insight into things that, so he was a wonderful father. And I think the key to it is, my advice would be, stop thinking about yourself. The word father means further. You're at a certain point, by the time you get to your 40s and 50s, you've enjoyed your life. Your life now should be for your children, especially, if you have a house, like somebody said, some parents, Black parents, this is my house. Yeah, Jewish and white parents, because I know they come to me for cars, they take second mortgages out, they co-sign for their children to get a car, they take second mortgage out to buy their children homes. You know what I'm saying? So we just have this warped mentality for the most part, where what is mine, and you go do it. Get out the house at 18, go do it for yourself. And so what you're doing, you're really just restarting something that should be generational. So my advice would be to stop thinking about yourself, especially as Black men. When you have children, it's not about the children, it's about your wife. You know, my father would give my wife, my mother the better car to drive. You know, things like that I grew up seeing. I didn't see it in other families. You know, the ego wasn't there for him. And so, you know, that's the key. The key would be just do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And if you were the child that your son or even your daughter is at this point in time, you would want that help. Stop thinking about yourself. Think about your children. Make a future for them. You know? Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Excellent, excellent, sir. And my sister Naima says she loves that perspective. She never thought about it that way. All praises due to Allah. Beautiful. And I want to thank you for your sacrifice, our brother Ian, on behalf of myself and my family and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, for your sacrifice and the sacrifice of your family to help establish Islam here, not only in North America, but back and forth to the islands as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I want to thank, I tell you, I know you hear it every day, but your father is absolutely amazing.
No praise to
you know what I mean? Minister Sharif is absolutely amazing. I mean, those FOI classes, I've learned so much from him and from Captain Dennis personally. You know, it's just, we couldn't have gotten here without your father in the way in which he helped us, you know, and your family for their sacrifice. Oh, well, mine, your family sacrificed. You know, I mean, I love you, pleased with your mom. And, you know, you're always in my prayer.
Thank you very much, sir. You and ours as well. What type of music do you listen to, sir?
I listen to, you know, I'm a weird listener. I don't listen to songs, I listen to artists. So I'll get into an artist. I'll get into Jay-Z and I'll go through all his arts and the way his mindset is at. So I listen to a lot of hip hop and anything that's new, like ever since I was a kid, I catch on to anything that is bad. So I'm listening to Kodak Black. So I listen to anything that, yes, sir. You know, and then I'm on TikTok. So when younger people come around and I say certain things, they're like, how do you know this? You know, I'm 48, but I'm like 18, you know? So I listen to hip hop. I listen to reggae. I listen to more like Bob Marley. I don't listen to dance hall. You know, the more, it's just, they never caught me, but I listen to rap, I listen to R&B, but I listen to arts. I like to know where their head was at, especially those that write like Mariah Carey. You can listen to different albums, you know where their head was at that time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. And Sister Sean says, very well said, sir. Somebody says Sean too. Okay, boom. 2 more questions for you. Yes, will you ever write a book on your personal life?
Yes. Yes, I wrote, I would say we probably have a couple, maybe 5 chapters already. I started to write a book in 2010, I think it was, yes. And I have it recorded, you know, and yes, sir. And I think the name, if it's available, would be the Car Guy. And there's a lot, it's going to be a very interesting book. Yes, sir. But yes, sir. Yes.
Beautiful. Yes, sir. Well, if you ever do turn it into a TV series or a movie, I'm an actor, so please, if you want somebody to be, you know, help, you know, be one of the characters.
It will.
Yes, sir. Please don't forget about me.
I won't forget. I will never forget you, brother. I watch you all the time.
Praise be to Allah. What would you like your legacy to be, sir?
My legacy, I would like to be that I was a little Farrakhan. You know, I was one that loved my people and corrected my people and lived a life, came through trials and the tribulations and won. And in the process, taught and civilized the uncivilized, you know, teach. And there's a lot of people that a few people, I must say, that can say that their success is because of me. You know, whether in business or personally, people call me when they're having problems, and I like that. So I'd like my legacy to be that I first of all, that I cared, I give a damn, and that I spoke to power, and that I never buckled under the pressure or under trial or under attack, but I overcame it, and that I won. Yes, sir. For my people. As an example.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Beautiful. Okay, great. And what a wonderful legacy that is. People are showing you love. So the song says, "Assalamu alaikum family, alaikum salam, ma'am." Can't wait to get this on YouTube as well. I want to thank you again. This has been very informative and inspiring as well, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the People's Podcast. I want everyone to please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And once we put this on YouTube, let us know your comments and what city you're from. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.